The massive ship appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. One moment, the space around Earth was empty. The next moment, a vessel larger than any human-made structure hung silently above the planet. Its surface gleamed with a metallic purple sheen that seemed to absorb nearby starlight. Inside NASA's mission control, alarms blared as computers detected the sudden appearance. Paul Mitchell spilled his coffee across important papers as he stared at the main screen. His tired eyes widened at the sight of the vessel that had somehow bypassed all early warning systems. "Is that what I think it is?" he asked, his voice barely audible over the chaos of the room. His colleague, Sam, nodded slowly. "If you're thinking it's a ship that's not one of ours, then yes." Within hours, military forces worldwide went on high alert. Fighter jets scrambled into the air. Missile systems prepared for launch. On every TV channel, news anchors with pale faces and shaking hands reported that humanity's first contact with alien life appeared to be happening. The Pentagon's emergency meeting room was filled beyond capacity. General Kevin Rodriguez pounded his fist on the table. "We need to strike first," he insisted. "Show them we won't be taken without a fight." But before any attack could be ordered, all electronic devices on Earth simultaneously received the same message. Phones, computers, TVs, radios, all played the same words in perfect English. "People of Earth, I am Zor-Kalath. I come alone and in peace. I wish to meet with your leaders to present gifts from the stars. I mean no harm." The message repeated in every known human language. The voice was deep and somehow melodic, despite a strange buzzing quality that reminded listeners of distant insect wings. In Switzerland, at a hastily prepared neutral site, world leaders gathered to decide how to respond. The United Nations Secretary-General spoke with careful words to the assembled group. "We must send representatives to meet this visitor. If we refuse, we risk appearing hostile." After heated debate, they selected 2 people for first contact. Paul Mitchell, whose work at NASA had prepared him to understand advanced technology, and Lisa Jacobs, a diplomat known for her calm approach to tense situations. "I never thought my job would include meeting aliens," Lisa said as she and Paul rode in an armored vehicle toward the landing site, a wide field surrounded by military forces from 6 different nations. Paul checked the scientific equipment in his bag for the 5th time. "I always hoped it would happen in my lifetime. I just expected more preparation." The alien ship, now hovering just 50 feet above the field, was even more impressive up close. It stretched almost a quarter-mile in length, with no visible seams or joints in its construction. A section of the hull suddenly became transparent, and a platform lowered slowly to the ground. Standing on it was Zor-Kalath. The alien stood nearly 9 feet tall. His body resembled a praying mantis crossed with a human, walking upright on 2 legs, but with 4 additional limbs extending from his torso. His exoskeleton shimmered with blues and greens that shifted as he moved. His head featured compound eyes that reflected the surroundings like living mirrors. Most surprising were the containers floating beside him. Transparent cases filled with objects that glowed, pulsed, or shifted in ways that defied human understanding. Every soldier raised their weapons as Zor-Kalath stepped onto Earth's soil. The alien made a gesture that might have been meant to appear peaceful. 2 of his upper limbs spread wide, the others folded close to his body. "I greet you as friends," his voice emerged from somewhere near his neck. "I am known across the galaxy as the Destroyer, but to you, I come as a giver of gifts." Lisa stepped forward, her diplomatic training barely keeping her voice steady. "We welcome you to Earth. I am Lisa Jacobs, and this is Paul Mitchell. May I ask why someone called the Destroyer brings gifts rather than demands?" The alien's head tilted in what seemed like amusement. Behind his strange features, something that might have been a smile appeared. "Because," Zor-Kalath said, "in all the vast galaxy, only humans have what I have spent millennia searching for." Paul and Lisa exchanged nervous glances as Zor-Kalath motioned toward the floating containers. The alien's movements were fluid despite his large frame and insect-like appearance. Please, Zorkalath said, examine what I have brought. Paul stepped forward, scientific curiosity overcoming his fear. He approached the nearest container, which held a small metal sphere that pulsed with blue light. Scanners in his hand showed no radiation or harmful elements. What is it? Paul asked, leaning closer to the container. Clean energy, Zorkalath explained. This sphere can power your largest city for 50 years without waste or pollution. Lisa's diplomatic training kept her face neutral, but her mind raced. And what do you want in exchange for such technology? Our resources, our loyalty. The alien made a sound like wind through leaves that seemed to be laughter. I seek nothing material from Earth. These gifts are freely given. General Rodriguez stepped forward from the military line, his hand resting on his sidearm. Nobody gives something for nothing, especially not someone called the Destroyer. Zorkalath's compound eyes shifted toward the general. Your suspicion is reasonable, but unnecessary. My title was earned in combat arenas and war zones across 100,000 worlds. Yet here, I come not to fight. As military personnel remained tense, Zorkalath opened all the containers with a wave of his upper limb. Inside were objects both beautiful and strange. Medical devices that could heal injuries instantly. Maps of star systems humans had never observed. Art pieces that shifted form based on the viewer's emotions. Paul carefully lifted a small device that resembled a glass pyramid. This appears to manipulate gravity, he said, watching as it caused a pebble to float upward. Correct, Zorkalath confirmed. A simple tool by galactic standards, but perhaps useful to your species. Lisa had been studying the alien's body language, trying to find any hint of deception. You still haven't explained why you're doing this. Zorkalath moved closer to her, towering over her 5'8" frame. Yet despite his imposing size, his movements remained gentle. For 10,000 years, I have been the champion of the galactic trials. I have defeated every challenger from every corner of known space. I have broken worlds when needed and conquered those who opposed me. The alien's voice grew softer, and in all that time, I found nothing of true value until scout ships discovered your planet. The alien turned toward the sunset, his exoskeleton reflecting orange and red hues. Your species is physically weak by galactic standards. Your technology is primitive, yet you possess something no other intelligent life has developed. More officials had arrived from around the world. The President of the United States, Eric Wells, stepped out of a helicopter that had just landed. Flanked by security, he approached the gathering. What exactly do we have that interests you? President Wells asked without introduction. Balance, replied Zorkalath. All other species excel in either aggression or passivity, logic or emotion, conquest or surrender. Humans contain multitudes within each individual. The alien gestured toward a group of children watching from behind a security barrier. Yesterday, I observed a small human defend a weaker one from harm, then share food with the very one who had threatened them. Such complexity is unknown elsewhere. Paul looked skeptical. You crossed the galaxy to give us advanced technology because we're complicated. Not complicated, Zorkalath corrected. Whole. In my culture, strength is everything. Yet your species has shown me that what we consider strength is merely power. What you possess is something greater. Lisa stepped closer to the containers, examining a glowing liquid in one vial. And these gifts, what do they represent? Tools, said Zorkalath, to help your species survive long enough to teach others what you know instinctively. General Rodriguez snorted with disbelief. If we're so special, why not just ask us to share our wisdom without the fancy bribes? Zorkalath's upper limbs made a gesture that seemed apologetic. Because your planet has very little time left. A fleet approaches, those who would rather see humanity eliminated than enlightened. The alien's eyes shifted toward the stars. They will be here within 3 of your days. The meeting room inside the United Nations emergency bunker was filled with world leaders, military officers, and scientists. Screens displayed images of Zorkalath's ship and the gifts he had brought. The alien himself sat at the large round table, his tall frame making the human-sized chair look like a child's seat. "Tell us more about this fleet," President Wells demanded. His face showed the strain of 24 hours without sleep. Zorkalath's compound eyes reflected the room's occupants. "They are the Vexkra, ancient rivals of my people. They believe any emerging species should be tested to prove their right to exist. Those who fail are harvested for resources." Lisa leaned forward. "And what does this test involve?" "Combat," the alien said simply. "They will demand Earth's strongest champion face their warrior in battle. The winner decides the planet's fate." General Rodriguez laughed bitterly. "So we're supposed to find someone who can beat an advanced alien warrior. That's your idea of help." Paul had been quiet, studying data from the gifts on his tablet. "These technologies could give us an edge. The medical device alone could help our champion survive injuries that would normally be fatal." Zorkalath made a gesture with his upper limbs that seemed to indicate negation. "Using my gifts in such combat would violate galactic law. The test must be fought with your existing abilities." Silence fell over the room. Samantha Grant, a respected anthropologist brought in to help understand alien culture, spoke up for the first time. "You mentioned you're known as a champion. You've won these kinds of battles before." "For 10,000 years, I have never lost," Zorkalath stated without pride. "That is why I am called the Destroyer." President Wells studied the alien carefully. "Would you fight for us?" "I can," Zorkalath replied. "But there is much you should understand first." The alien reached into a compartment in his exoskeleton and removed a small crystal. When he placed it on the table, it projected images into the air. The humans gasped as they saw scenes from Earth's history, ancient battles, scientific breakthroughs, acts of charity, moments of cruelty. "My kind has observed your planet for centuries," Zorkalath explained. "We watched you build civilizations and tear them down. We saw your capacity for both violence and mercy. The images changed to show strange alien worlds and fearsome creatures. I was born to a warrior culture. From hatching, I was trained to fight, to conquer, to destroy. My people value strength above all else, and I became the strongest." Paul leaned closer to the projections. "You conquered these worlds." "Many of them," Zorkalath confirmed. "Not out of hate, but because it was expected. In our society, the strong rule and the weak serve. This is the way of most advanced species in the galaxy." The images shifted again, showing human children playing, people helping strangers after disasters, scientists working together. "Then our scouts found Earth. Your species fascinated me. You are physically weak, your lives brief, yet you build, create, and care for one another in ways my people never considered important." Lisa studied the alien's face, trying to read emotions in his alien features. "So you've been studying us." "Learning from you," Zorkalath corrected. "My first visit was to your ancient Egypt. I watched humans build massive structures not through force but cooperation. I returned during your Renaissance and saw beauty created rather than conquered." General Rodriguez frowned. "If you've been visiting for centuries, why has no one reported seeing you?" "I observed carefully," the alien said. "But there are stories in many cultures of tall, insect-like beings appearing during times of significance. Your people often call us angels or demons, depending on their perception." The crystal's projection changed to show a massive fleet of ships moving through space. "The Vexkra come now because they detected my presence here. They believe I plan to claim Earth as my territory. They challenge my right to do so." Paul looked confused. "But you said you came to bring gifts, not to claim Earth." Zorkalath's body seemed to relax slightly. "Yes, but the Vexkra would not understand. They know me only as the Destroyer, not as what I have become through studying humanity." "And what is that?" Lisa asked quietly. The alien stood to his full height, his exoskeleton catching the light. a student of compassion, a being who has learned that true strength may not be what my people have valued for millennia. President Wells rubbed his tired eyes. So you'll fight for us against these Vexkra? I will, Zorkalath said, but I must warn you. If I do this, it will change how I fight, and that may surprise both our peoples. The sky darkened as the Vexkra fleet entered Earth's orbit 2 days later. Their ships looked like giant black thorns against the blue sky. 7 vessels, each larger than Zorkalath's ship, surrounded the planet like a cage of metal. On screens worldwide, people watched the alien ships with fear. In homes, schools, and public squares, humans gathered to witness humanity's moment of trial. Inside NASA's Mission Control, now serving as a command center, Paul worked with scientists to study the new arrivals. Their energy readings are off the charts, he told Lisa, who had barely left his side since their first meeting with Zorkalath. One of those ships could probably destroy a continent. Lisa nodded grimly. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Zorkalath stood nearby, his tall form still except for the slight movement of his breathing. It will not, he said. The Vexkra follow ancient laws. They will demand the trial before any attack. As if responding to his words, all electronic devices on Earth received a new transmission. The image showed a being similar to Zorkalath, but with a red and black exoskeleton and 6 eyes arranged in a circle. People of Earth, the alien's harsh voice rasped. I am War Commander Krell of the Vexkra Dominion. We detect the presence of the one called Destroyer on your world. He has no right to claim this planet. We challenge his authority according to the ancient compact. President Wells looked to Zorkalath, who nodded and stepped forward to address the transmission. War Commander, Zorkalath said, his voice steady. I accept your challenge as is my right. Name your champion and the terms. The Vexkra commander's multiple eyes blinked in sequence. Our champion is Drakmor, Render of Worlds. The terms are simple: combat until submission or death. The victor claims Earth. I accept, Zorkalath replied without hesitation. After the transmission ended, General Rodriguez approached Zorkalath. You seem confident for someone facing someone called Render of Worlds. The alien's head tilted slightly. I have fought many such champions, but this fight will be different. Different how? Paul asked. In the past, I fought to destroy. Now, I fight to protect. Zorkalath's compound eyes shifted to look out the window at the gathering crowds outside. It changes everything. The next morning, a Vexkra ship landed in the middle of a large desert area that had been cleared for the combat. From the ship emerged a massive creature that made even Zorkalath look small. Drakmor stood 12 feet tall, with 4 massive arms ending in curved blades and a body covered in natural armor plates. Billions watched the livestream as Zorkalath approached the arena. Lisa and Paul stood among the small group of human witnesses allowed to observe in person. I've been studying the gifts he brought, Paul whispered to Lisa. There's something strange about some of them. They seem almost familiar. Lisa couldn't look away from the 2 alien champions facing each other. What do you mean? Some of the technology is based on human designs, just incredibly advanced versions. It's like he took our inventions and improved them with alien knowledge. Their conversation was cut short as War Commander Krell's voice boomed across the desert. The combat begins now. The fate of this world hangs in the balance. Drakmor moved with surprising speed for his size, charging toward Zorkalath with all 4 blades raised. Zorkalath dodged with fluid grace, his movements reminiscent of human martial arts, rather than the direct power one might expect from the destroyer. The crowd gasped as the 2 aliens clashed. Drakmor's attacks were brutal and direct, trying to overwhelm with sheer power. Zorkalath fought defensively, using his opponent's momentum against him. He's fighting like a human would, General Rodriguez said with surprise, using technique against raw power. For nearly an hour, the battle continued. Zorkalath took several hits but remained standing. Blood the color of blue electricity dripped from wounds on his exoskeleton. Yet when he had clear opportunities to strike killing blows, he hesitated. Lissa noticed these moments. "He's holding back," she said. "Why?" Paul watched intently. "He said he's changed. Maybe he's trying to win without killing." After a particularly fierce exchange, Zor-Kalath had Drakmor off balance. Everyone could see the opening for a finishing strike. Instead, Zor-Kalath paused, looking toward the human observers. In that moment of mercy, Drakmor recovered and drove one of his blades deep into Zor-Kalath's side. The crowd fell silent as the destroyer, humanity's champion, collapsed to the ground. Blood pooled beneath Zor-Kalath as he lay in the desert sand. Drakmor stood over him, all four arms raised in a victory pose. The Vex-Cry ships in orbit flashed their lights in what seemed to be celebration. "The combat is decided," War Commander Krell announced. "Earth now belongs to the Vex-Cry Dominion." Among the human observers, Paul couldn't accept what he was seeing. Without thinking about his own safety, he ran into the combat area toward the fallen alien. "Paul, stop!" Lissa shouted, but he didn't listen. Guards tried to intercept him, but Paul dodged past them. He reached Zor-Kalath and knelt beside the wounded alien. Up close, he could see that Zor-Kalath was still breathing, though weakly. Drakmor turned his attention to the human, raising one bladed arm. "Step away, small one. This is not your place." Paul ignored the threat. "Zor-Kalath saved my life once," he said loudly, looking directly at the massive alien champion. This wasn't true, but Paul had a plan. "What do you mean, human?" War Commander Krell demanded. "I need to check something," Paul whispered to Zor-Kalath as he pretended to examine the alien's wounds. "Trust me." Then, louder for everyone to hear, Paul continued. "When I was a child, I was lost in a forest fire. Something saved me, something not human. I never understood what I saw until I met Zor-Kalath." The injured alien's eyes focused on Paul with confusion. Paul reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device he had taken from one of Zor-Kalath's gift containers. It was a recording crystal similar to the one the alien had used earlier. "I found this among your gifts," Paul said quietly to Zor-Kalath. "It contains records of your visits to Earth. Not observations from space. Actual visits. You've been living among us, haven't you?" Zor-Kalath's voice was weak. "How did you know?" "The technology you gave us. Some of it uses human design principles that no alien observer could understand without living here." Paul held up the crystal. "This proves you haven't been claiming Earth. You've been protecting it, becoming part of it." Paul stood and addressed War Commander Krell. "By your own ancient laws, Zor-Kalath has been Earth's guardian for centuries. This crystal contains proof. He didn't come to claim our world. He was already part of it." The War Commander's 6 eyes narrowed. "Show me this evidence." Paul activated the crystal. Images appeared in the air for all to see. Zor-Kalath in different time periods throughout human history, helping during natural disasters, saving people from accidents, always hidden but present. The final image showed a young boy, clearly a younger version of Paul, being carried from a burning forest by a tall figure with an insect-like silhouette. Lissa stepped forward, understanding Paul's strategy. "By your own laws, Commander, Zor-Kalath has been Earth's protector, not its conqueror. This challenge has no legal basis." War Commander Krell hissed in frustration. "The combat has already been decided." "No," came Zor-Kalath's voice as he slowly rose to his feet, blue blood still dripping from his wound. "It has not." Drakmor stepped back in surprise. "You should be dead." Zor-Kalath's compound eyes focused on his opponent. "I learned something from humans that no other species taught me. How to fight for others instead of myself. It gives strength beyond physical power." In the stands, General Rodriguez turned to Samantha Grant. "Is this possible? Can caring for others actually make someone stronger?" The anthropologist nodded. "Humans have always found greater strength when protecting loved ones than when fighting for themselves. Mothers lift cars off trapped children. Ordinary people become heroes in a crisis. On the battlefield, Zor-Kilath moved with new purpose. His fighting style changed, becoming more direct but still disciplined. Each strike was precise, targeting Drakmor's joints and weak points rather than attempting to deliver fatal blows. The crowd watched in amazement as the destroyer, despite his serious wounds, began to gain the upper hand. Drakmor's greater size became a disadvantage as Zor-Kilath used the human-inspired techniques to unbalance his opponent. With a final sweep of his lower limbs, Zor-Kilath knocked Drakmor to the ground and pinned him there, one sharp arm poised at the larger alien's throat. "Submit," Zor-Kilath said firmly. For several tense seconds, no one moved. Then, slowly, Drakmor lowered his bladed arms. "I submit," the champion of the Vexkrag growled. The war commander's voice came again, thick with angry disbelief. "This is not possible." Zor-Kilath turned toward the human observers, his eyes finding Paul and Lisa. "With humans, I have learned that many impossible things are simply waiting to be discovered." War Commander Krell's face appeared on screens around the world once more. His 6 eyes blinked with obvious anger, but his voice remained controlled. "The combat is concluded. By the terms of the ancient compact, Earth remains under the protection of Zor-Kilath." The Vexkra ships in orbit began to move away from Earth. Humans everywhere cheered as the threat departed. In the desert arena, medical teams rushed to Zor-Kilath's side. His blue blood had soaked the sand beneath him, and despite his victory, he could barely stand. "Will your people help him?" Lisa asked one of the Vexkra guards who remained. The alien made a dismissive gesture. He chose humans over his own kind. Let humans save him. As the last Vexkra returned to their ship, Paul helped support Zor-Kilath's massive frame. "We need to get him medical attention." Samantha Grant stepped forward. "His physiology is completely different from ours. Our doctors won't know how to treat him." Zor-Kilath's voice was weak but steady. "In the gifts, there is a medical device. The silver box with blue markings." General Rodriguez, who had observed the entire battle, spoke into his radio. Within minutes, a helicopter arrived carrying the box Zor-Kilath had described. Soldiers carefully brought it to where the alien lay. "How does it work?" Paul asked, examining the strange device. "Place it on the wound," Zor-Kilath instructed. Lisa carefully positioned the silver box over the deep gash in the alien's side. The device hummed to life, glowing with soft blue light. Tendrils of energy extended from it, weaving into Zor-Kilath's damaged exoskeleton. "Amazing," Paul whispered as he watched the wound slowly close. While the device worked, President Wells approached. "You saved our planet. Thank you." Zor-Kilath's compound eyes focused on the human leader. "I protected my home." "Your home?" President Wells repeated with surprise. "Yes," the alien confirmed. "I have lived among humans for longer than any of you have been alive. I have watched your children grow. I have seen your cities rise. This world is as much my home as it is yours." As the healing device completed its work, Zor-Kilath stood more steadily. The gash in his side had closed, though a dark blue scar remained visible. "Why did you hide from us all this time?" Lisa asked. "My people believe in conquest. Earth would have been at risk if they knew of my attachment to humans." Zor-Kilath looked up at the sky where the Vexkra ships were now just distant points of light. "Now they know, and they will tell others." General Rodriguez frowned. "So we've just exchanged one threat for many." "No," Zor-Kilath said. "Something unprecedented has happened today. For the first time in galactic history, a champion fought not to destroy, but to protect. Many watched this battle. Many will reconsider what they know about strength." That evening, as the sun set over the desert, Paul and Lisa sat with Zor-Kilath on a ridge overlooking the temporary camp that had been established. The alien seemed lost in thought. "What happens now?" Paul asked. "Now we build," Zor-Kilath replied. "The gifts I brought are more than technology. They are an invitation. An invitation to what? Lisa wondered. To join the stars as equals, not as conquered subjects. Zor-Kalath gestured to the sky. There are other species who hide from conquerors, peaceful races with much to share. They will come now, knowing Earth is protected. Paul looked skeptical. All because you won a fight. Because of how I won, Zor-Kalath corrected. Mercy is seen as weakness among most advanced species. Today showed it can be strength. A small aircraft landed nearby. From it emerged Samantha Grant, carrying a tablet. We've been analyzing the data from your ship, she told Zor-Kalath. There are messages coming in from across the galaxy. She handed the tablet to the alien. His eyes widened as he read. What is it? Lisa asked. Hope, Zor-Kalath said simply. Other champions like me, who have questioned the old ways. They wish to learn what humans taught me. Paul looked up at the stars, now appearing in the darkening sky. And what exactly did we teach you? Zor-Kalath's exoskeleton reflected the last rays of sunlight. That the strongest are not those who can destroy worlds, but those who will sacrifice to save them. 3 months passed since the battle with Drakmor. Spring arrived, bringing new growth and new beginnings. In a large field outside New York, construction teams worked on a massive dome-shaped building. Humans and several alien visitors worked side by side, using both Earth technology and tools from the stars. Paul walked through the construction site, checking plans on his tablet. Since the battle, he had been appointed head of the new Galactic Relations Department. His life had changed completely. The central meeting chamber is almost finished, Lisa said, joining him. She now served as Earth's first ambassador to other worlds. Delegates from 7 peaceful species will arrive next week. Hall nodded, looking up at the gleaming dome. Hard to believe how much has changed so quickly. Humans adapt well, came Zor-Kalath's voice as he approached them. The tall alien moved with his usual grace, though the blue scar on his side was still visible through his exoskeleton. It is one of your greatest strengths. In the months since the battle, Zor-Kalath had become a familiar sight on Earth. He had revealed his many hiding places around the world, small bases hidden underwater, in remote mountains, and even beneath major cities. Each contained more gifts of knowledge and technology that he had been collecting for centuries. Have you heard from your people? Lisa asked. She knew Zor-Kalath's defense of Earth had made him an outcast among his own kind. A few have reached out privately, the alien said. Some young ones question the old ways of conquest. They wish to visit Earth and learn. Paul checked something on his tablet. Speaking of visitors, the medical team from Altaris 5 has successfully treated over 200 human patients with previously incurable conditions. This was one of the first benefits of Earth's new galactic connections. A species of healer aliens had arrived shortly after news of the battle spread, offering their advanced medical knowledge. And the educational exchange program starts next month. Lisa added, 50 human students will study with alien teachers, while alien students learn human subjects. They walked together to a small hill overlooking the construction site. In the distance, they could see the spires of New York City. Already, some buildings showed signs of new technology. Solar collectors that worked even at night, clean transportation systems that floated above the old roads. There is something I must tell you both, Zor-Kalath said, his tone more serious. I received a message from the Galactic Council. Paul and Lisa exchanged worried glances. The Galactic Council was the closest thing to a governing body among the stars, though Zor-Kalath had explained it had limited power over stronger species like the Vexkra. What did they say? Lisa asked. They wish to observe Earth's progress. My defense of your world has created great interest. Some believe humans might bring balance to long-standing conflicts. Paul looked skeptical. Us? We can barely keep peace among ourselves. That is precisely why, Zor-Kalath explained. You struggle with your dual nature, capable of both great violence and great compassion. Most species excel at one or the other, not both. You understand the challenge of choosing peace when war is easier. A small ship flew overhead, one of the new hybrid vessels built with human and alien technology. It landed near the construction site, and from it emerged General Rodriguez. The general had been skeptical of aliens at first, but after seeing the medical technology save his daughter's life, he had become a strong supporter of the new galactic relationships. "We've detected unusual movement at the edge of our solar system," Rodriguez reported as he joined them. 3 ships of unknown origin. Zor-Kelath looked up at the sky. "They are early. These would be the council observers." "Are they a threat?" the general asked. "Old habits die hard." "No," Zor-Kelath said, "but they bring a challenge. The council wishes to see if Earth's influence on me was unique, or if humans can change others as well." Lisa looked confused. "What does that mean?" The aliens' compound eyes reflected the sunlight. "The ships carry 3 of the most feared conquerors in the galaxy, warriors who have never known defeat or shown mercy." Paul sighed. "And they want us to teach them compassion." "No," Zor-Kelath said. "They want to see if you can do the impossible again. Show the galaxy that the greatest strength comes not from conquest, but from connection." As the sun began to set, a new star appeared in the sky. The approaching ships, visible even in daylight. "Are we ready for this?" Lisa asked. Zor-Kelath made a sound that had become recognizable as laughter. "You have been ready for centuries. That is why I bring gifts to humans, to help you show others what you have shown me." 1 year after Zor-Kelath's battle with Drakmor, Earth had changed in ways few could have imagined. The new galactic embassy stood completed, its crystal dome gleaming in the sunlight. Inside, representatives from 23 alien species now maintained permanent offices. On this special day, humans and aliens gathered in the central chamber to celebrate the anniversary of first contact. The large room buzzed with dozens of languages, both human and alien. Holographic displays showed images from joint projects across the planet. New forests growing in former deserts, sick children healed by alien medicine, and cities powered by clean energy from the stars. Paul adjusted his formal suit as he prepared to give a speech. Beside him, Lisa reviewed her notes one last time. "Nervous?" she asked with a smile. "A little," Paul admitted. "It's not every day you address delegates from half the galaxy." Zor-Kelath approached them, accompanied by 3 imposing aliens. These were the conquerors who had arrived 1 year ago. Meknar, a massive crystal being who had destroyed 14 worlds. Tilla, a graceful but deadly hunter from the Outer Rim. And Vorax, a shapeshifter known for infiltrating and collapsing entire civilizations. Yet today, all 3 wore the blue sash that marked them as allies of Earth. "The council observers will arrive shortly," Zor-Kelath informed them. "They wish to see the results of our experiment." Meknar, whose crystal body shimmered with internal light, spoke in a deep rumbling voice. "I still do not fully understand how this happened. I came to study human weakness. Instead, I found strength I never knew existed." Over the past year, each conqueror had been paired with human teachers. Not warriors or politicians, but ordinary people. Farmers, teachers, doctors, and artists. They had lived in human homes, eaten human food, and experienced human kindness firsthand. The results had shocked the galaxy. 3 of the most feared beings in known space now spoke of cooperation rather than conquest. "I had destroyed worlds without thought," Tilla said, her feline eyes scanning the crowd. "Yet when a human child offered to share her meal with me, an enemy who could have killed her with a touch, I began to question everything." Vorax, who currently appeared mostly humanoid except for his silver skin, nodded. "My people valued deception as the highest form of power. Humans showed me the strength of honesty." As they spoke, a murmur spread through the crowd. Through the dome, they could see 3 golden ships descending from the sky. The Galactic Council observers finally arriving for the formal review. President Wells joined their group, looking more relaxed than he had a year ago, when aliens first appeared in Earth's sky. Is everything ready for the inspection? Yes, Lisa confirmed. They'll tour our joint projects, review the cultural exchange programs, and interview both humans and visitors. The massive doors of the chamber opened as the council representatives entered, tall, robed figures with glowing eyes and an air of ancient wisdom. The room fell silent as they approached. The lead council member, whose name was unpronounceable by humans, spoke. "We have watched your world for one cycle. What we have seen defies all predictions." Zorkalaf stepped forward. "I told you humans were unique." Indeed. The council member turned to address the gathering. For billions of years, advanced species have followed the path of conquest. The strong rule the weak. This has been the way of the stars. The ancient being gestured to the holographic displays showing humans and aliens working together. Yet in a single year, Earth has demonstrated another way. Even our most feared warriors now speak of cooperation. Paul felt a mix of pride and humility. We still have much to learn ourselves. Yes, the council member agreed. But you have already taught the galaxy its most important lesson. True strength is not measured by worlds conquered, but by connections formed and lives improved. The council member raised the ceremonial staff. By unanimous decision, Earth is granted protected status as a beacon world, a center for cultural exchange and peaceful innovation. Cheers erupted throughout the chamber. Lisa squeezed Paul's hand in excitement. As the celebration continued, Zorkalaf led Paul and Lisa to a quiet corner of the room. From a compartment in his exoskeleton, he removed a small glowing seed. "My final gift," he said, offering it to them. "From my homeworld, a tree that lives for 10,000 years. Plant it here as a symbol of what begins today." Paul accepted the seed carefully. What exactly begins today? Zorkalaf's compound eyes reflected the joyous gathering around them. A new age for the galaxy. For millennia, I brought destruction wherever I went. Now, because of what I learned from humans, I bring gifts instead. He looked out at the stars becoming visible as evening fell. And the greatest gift is the simplest, the understanding that the universe grows stronger through compassion than through fear.